Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Coffee and Contemplation brought to you by Spotlight Recovery. It is May 10th. We've got a neat little reflection here. Yeah, free at last. So I'm assuming this was written before the days of Nelson Mandela and all of that whole thing. So I am just hoping there's going to be zero controversy in any of the comments or anything around this, because that's not the point. So anyway, it's called Free at Last. It's from the AA Daily Reflections, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So let's get into it. This is a cute little one, and I really like the messaging. So, May 10th, free at last. Another great dividend we may expect from confiding our defects to another human being is humility, a word often misunderstood. It amounts to a clear recognition of what and who we really are, followed by a sincere attempt to become what we could be. From the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 58. I knew deep inside that if I were ever to be joyous, happy, and free, I had to share my past life with some other individual. The joy and relief I experienced after doing so were beyond description. Almost immediately after taking the 5th step, I felt free from the bondage of self and the bondage of alcohol. That freedom remains after 36 years, a day at a time. I found that God could do for me what I could not do for myself. And like I said, that's from the AA Daily Reflections. So short and sweet. It's a very cool one. I really like that message. One of my old sponsors, we were part of the same sponsorship family. I remember that we had, me and him and a whole bunch of us, like 20 of us or something, we'd all gone out for lunch. It was during the ORC, so the Ontario Regional Conference of AA. It's like a big giant meeting-a-thon for a weekend. It's friggin' awesome. And we had all gone out for lunch, and him and our sponsor at the time, they were both high rollers. So we'd had a whole bunch of lunch, and at the end, the two of them just split the bill and bought lunch for like all these people. And like for them, it's no big deal. Like it wouldn't make a difference. And me at the time being on welfare and living in community sober housing, that meant a lot. And I ate as much as I could. And I just remember seeing that, being like, how are they just so easily able to do this? And they did it like secretly, like sneakily, like with the bill. So it's like I saw them like talking to the server. So it's like no one else knew. So there was like zero, they weren't trying to show off in any way. They were trying to hide that they did it. I just caught them on it. And we're walking away, and one of the guys who had paid one of the other sponsees was just walking along, and that's what he just said. He was just like, free at last. Free at last. And I just remember him walking and saying this and just feeling it as we're going back to another meeting. And it was just so cool. I remembered I was just like in total awe of this guy. Because at the time he was, I don't know, like a decade sober or something like that. And I don't even know if I had a year. I'm sure I didn't. And it was just so cool to see. And I just remember that so much. And just seeing the real, genuine smile and care in his face, the total lack of stress, the ability like just to do something that I couldn't even fathom. Just to do so casually, to have like that kind of financial security, all of this fellowship, being with our whole sponsorship family, and then just walking away saying free at last for himself. Like it was so cool. It was so cool. I'll never forget that. Really stands out for me. And I remember that him walking, and I'm just like, I want to be that guy. That's what I want. I want to be him. Right out of Yellowstone. What do you want to do? I want to be him. Like, oh man, stood out so much. It was so cool. So that's what that reminded me of. So I had to pick this one and read it. Now they've got a couple other, there's a couple good points in here that I want to get into as well. I really like this on defining humility, and mentioning this is really good. Another great dividend we may expect from confiding our defects to another human being is humility, a word often misunderstood. It amounts to a clear recognition of what and who we really are, followed by a sincere attempt to become what we could be. Oh my God, I love that line so much. That first half, that piece of definition, the definition of humility, I do think is pretty straightforward. That I resonated with a lot, but that follow-up line, followed by a sincere attempt to become what we could be, is huge. I resonate with that so much. It's just like, oh, it's the same as that Marianne Williamson quote of you being small does not serve the world, and oh man, so look up that one as well, that whole quote and section and everything. You know what? No, I'll put a link in the description to that as well, so you can find it. So check that out, whatever platform you're on. I'll find it and put it in there because it is just so powerful. I love that, and I think that's a really common fear I think a lot of people have. I think that's beyond just an addict thing. A lot of people are scared of becoming what they could be, doing what it takes, what it requires, and believing that we can be successful beyond just like a life and recovery, that we can have all of these things and amount and build and grow all of these things. I think that's a pretty common one. So I really like that how they worded that out of that 12 and 12, followed by a sincere attempt to become what we could be. That's a fear I definitely still struggle with and I'm having to work at all the time. So that's a really good reminder for me. Now, the second half here, this is where this person is talking about how they found that freedom, what made them free at last from alcoholism. In this case, it's more of free of their past life. And I love that they mentioned that. I knew in order to be free, I had to let go of my past life. I had to share everything with somebody else, get it all out of my system, really look at all of that and quit living with it inside my mind. And so it says almost immediately after taking the fifth step, which is when we share our inventory with another person, that same thing. So when we share all of that past life with somebody else, I felt free from the bondage of self and the bondage of alcohol. So two separate things, which I also really like a lot, that distinction too. Because the bondage of self, again, addict or not, I think any human can relate with that. And so this person talking about that liberation from that bondage of self by sharing all of their past and then just being humble, finding this humility around who they really were, who they really are now, and who they really could be, and striving to do that. So liberating themselves from the bondage of self through doing that process, and then also from the bondage of alcohol. And that's where this language really stands out for me too. So I'm sure some SJW at some point is going to come at me or comment or something for this title, but I mean, only like real addicts understand what it's like to be completely like enslaved by your addiction. And I'm just saying this specifically around addiction. Like I'm trying to find another word here, just being held hostage by your addiction, being stuck from that, like, and within yourself. That's more of what I'm referring to. This isn't a comparison to anything else. It's just saying that it's its own kind of prison that you can't explain to somebody else unless they've been there. And so that's why addicts help other addicts. That's why addicts understand other addicts and speak that same language, because we know what it feels like to be in that almost self-made prison, to be imprisoned by our disease and by substance or behavior, whatever it may be. So I really like that they just talk about here on separating these two things about being free from the bondage of self and then free from your addiction. And those two things giving them so much freedom. And that's the word that they're using, which I absolutely resonate with as well. And I love the piece of hope that they connect this with too. That freedom remains after 36 years, a day at a time. And then finishes with the last promise and the 12 promises from AA. I found that God could do for me what I couldn't do for myself. Just some really powerful stuff. Really powerful stuff. I really like that. That really stands out. That really stands out for me. And so I hope it really does for you too. So please, down in the comments, whatever platform you're on, if you can, would love to hear what stands out for you in this reflection. How do you relate at this? What helped you feel that freedom in your recovery? What was the change made that got you there? Would love to be able to hear that. So throw them down in there. Whatever platform you're on, any like, follow, subscribe, comment, share, all of that stuff really just helps us carry the message and grow this podcast more. So we'd really appreciate it. And make sure to check out the description. There's a lot more in there that can support you in your recovery. There's a lot of ways that Spotlight Recovery can support you, and you can support Spotlight Recovery. Okay, so take a look through all that to get the most you can out of this podcast. All right. So, but still, thank you for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Wishing you a beautiful day in your recovery, a day free of your addiction, free of self, and we'll see you again tomorrow.